All right, so we're going to talk here about Dmacc standard 4.3, which is reflect on how texts shape identities. And this can be both personal identities or it can be larger identities as well, identities of a people or a particular group of people. So I'm going to start here with this quote that I think is fabulous from Marianne Wolf. Marianne Wolf is a scholar of reading, and particularly lately, she's been looking at the difference between digital reading, the kind that we do online, the kind that we do on our phones, and deep reading, the type of reading we can do when we read literature, as we will in this class, and when we pay particularly deep attention to the literature that we're reading. And here's what she's advocating for. I will just read this to you. We need to cultivate a new kind of brain, a biliterate reading brain, capable of the deepest forms of thought in either digital or traditional mediums. A great deal hangs on it. The ability of citizens in a vibrant democracy to try on other perspectives and discern truth, the capacity of our children and grandchildren to appreciate and create beauty, and the ability in ourselves to go beyond our present glut of information to reach the knowledge and wisdom necessary to sustain a good society. So some words here: truth, beauty, knowledge, wisdom, good society. These are the types of things that I'm hoping we can think through this year. Discerning truth, appreciating beauty, and hopefully reaching some type of wisdom in this class. And texts, books, poems, novels, plays, etc., these are what we are going to use in order to discern truth, in order to appreciate beauty, in order to try to reach wisdom. And so that is why I have titled this class, Who Am I? Using Literature to Shape an Understanding of Myself and the World. And again, I'm going to read off some of my core beliefs here that help undergird and kind of explain why we're doing the class in the way that we're doing it. I believe that you are a project, right? You are forming a self. You're forming who it is that you want to be in this world, as am I, as is everyone in this world. And one of the ways in which we form that self is that we exist in webs of meaning. We exist in families. We exist in schools. We exist in all of these different groups. We exist in particular natural environments. We exist in text as well. Text is always coming in at us, whether that text is a poster, whether that text is what we are watching on television, whether that text is something that we are reading. All right? And what reading allows us to do is allows us to hold our ideas up against the ideas of other people. It allows us to enter into conversation with others across all time and space. And when you're entering into a conversation about the things that we talked about earlier, truth and beauty, but the conversation, when you're thinking through what other people have read, other people are written, other people are writing about governance and love and family and race and class and gender, desire, greed, gluttony, altruism, transcendence, all of life is contained in literature. And so this is an active pursuit. You are interacting with another author's world, and through that, you are producing meaning. All right? So the web that you sit in when it comes to reading, the texts that fill your head shape you. All right? Much in the same way as what you eat affects your physical body, what you read affects the way that you see and understand the world. All right? So at its very basic level, reflecting on how texts shape identities, you can think about this personally. How does what you read shape your thoughts about truth or beauty or governance or love or family or race, class, etc.? All right? So we can think about it personally, but we can also think about how we have identities not just as me, Anders Dovry, but I have an identity as well as an American, or as a Ballard bomber, right? We have these communal identities as well. So I'm going to talk today about not just how texts shape personal identity, but how they can shape a national identity as well. All right, so here we have John Winthrop. John Winthrop was a Puritan. Perhaps you remember him from your earlier classes. He came to the Massachusetts Bay Colony in 1630. He was a governor there for 12 of the 21st years of that colony's existence. And he wrote, and one of the quotes which he is remembered for is this: "For we must consider that we shall be as a city upon a hill. The eyes of all people are upon us." Now, these words are famous words. This is a text, all right? So this is going to be our example text right here, just these 2 lines. Now, this text itself didn't spring out of nowhere. Winthrop is actually referencing the book of Matthew 5:14, where the writer of Matthew says that Jesus says, "You are the light of the world. A city on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a basket. Instead, they set it on a stand and it gives light to everyone in the house," and so on and so forth. So Winthrop, obviously being a religious Puritan, is entering into a conversation across time, across space with the writer of Matthew and these words attributed to Jesus. And this idea of a city on a hill gives birth to this understanding of American exceptionalism, that America is different in some way than all other nations, that we are that shining city upon a hill for all to see. And some of the beliefs that go along with this, that spring from Winthrop's original words, is that America behaves perhaps better than other nations, that it's more equal than other nations, that America's success is due to its special genius, that America is responsible for most of the good in the world, that God is on our side. All of these can trace themselves back in part to some Winthrop's words, and the ways in which those words, that the United States is a city on a hill, the ways that that has shaped our understanding of ourselves. All right, so this belief that America is exceptional, that we are this shining city on a hill, it's been credited with undergirding manifest destiny and westward expansion, and the expansion of the United States kind of empire across the continent, across the world, that we are there standing up for truth and justice and equality across the world. Now, of course, that belief has undergirded that, but that belief perhaps then has also led perhaps to Western expansion, led to genocide, right? It led to displacement of people. It led to destruction of natural environments. All right? So that is kind of a casualty, I guess you would say, of that belief, in that trust, in that identity. So that belief that America is exceptional perhaps undergirds our winning the Second World War, right? It probably leads to our belief that we can do amazing things like land on the moon. But that belief in that myth, or that belief in that identity of America being exceptional, may also blind us to the ways in which we are unequal, and we might not compare favorably to other nations. Across time, this understanding that we are a city on a hill, to go back to John Winthrop's words, it has been picked up by famous people, by people of both parties. So here you have JFK, a Democrat, who is referencing being a city on a hill, and that is what our nation is. You have Ronald Reagan, a Republican, famously picking up John Winthrop's line that we are a shining city on a hill, and saying that a troubled and afflicted mankind looks to us, pleading for us to keep our rendezvous with destiny, that we will uphold the principles of self-reliance, self-discipline, morality, and above all, responsible liberty for every individual, that we will become that shining city on a hill. Even in President Trump's idea that we can make America great again, you have the same reference that the United States stands above. The United States shines for all to see. And then if we can go back and bring that exceptionalism back, then we can make America great again. So even in this slogan from Our Life Today, we see the kind of vestiges of John Winthrop's words about a shining city on a hill. And then, of course, you have people who might not necessarily agree about what American exceptionalism is. Maybe American exceptionalism isn't that we are just smarter than everyone else or that we automatically behave better than other people. And so President Barack Obama, on the occasion of the 50th anniversary of Selma to Montgomery marches on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, said this in a speech: "What greater expression of faith in the American experience than this? What greater form of patriotism is there than the belief that America is not yet finished, that we are strong enough to be self-critical, that each successive generation can look upon our imperfections and decide what is in our power to remake this nation to more closely align with our highest ideals. That's what it means to love America. That's what it means to believe in America. That's what it means when we say America is exceptional." So even as words and texts like John Winthrop's City on a Hill text creates an identity, that does not mean that identity is static. And it doesn't mean that every person reacts to that original text or to that idea of American exceptionalism in the same way. And that is the joy of being in conversations about a text across time and space, that people have different understandings and ideas about those texts. And through talking with each other, through reading and writing each other's works, we can come to kind of further, more critical and interesting understandings about our own identities and what the original texts can mean to us and how they can shape us. So what's interesting is that if we go back to John Winthrop and we read the entire quote, it says, "For we must consider that we shall be as a city upon a hill, the eyes of all people are upon us, so that if we shall deal falsely with our God in this work we have undertaken, and so cause him to withdraw his present help from us, we shall be made a story and a byword throughout the world." So rather than being a pronouncement or a belief in how great this country is, when you look at this complete kind of paragraph in which this quote is embedded, it's really more of an admonishment or a warning for our country. So we can see and hear how a text, even a simple phrase such as "city on a hill," can shape identity, not just a personal identity, but a national identity as well. And how those words, that text, can serve as a guardrail or, in this instance, kind of a guiding light for people, even as they disagree over what that text means in their context. So this is one way to think about how texts shape identities.